Hi, my name is Colin. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I want to discuss my experience studying music composition in a four-year public university, a state university, and a private university. So let's find out. To tell you a little bit about myself studying music compositions, I went to three different schools to study music compositions. I got my bachelor degree from UC Irvine, and immediately I went to Cal State East Bay for my first master's in classical music compositions. And right after that, I went to Seattle Film Institute for my second master's in film and game scoring. It took me about 7 years total to earn the three degrees. But again, degrees don't really matter. It's just like I just feel like in the 21st centuries to make a living as a composer, you do have to have both like the classical and the commercial side. These three schools are very different from each other. Let me explain to you the difference really quick before I discuss the pros and cons with you. UC Irvine is a four-year public university that requires you to have very good grades, basically straight A's, very good SAT scores, and good performance during your auditions. So the standard is very, very high. For Cal State East Bay is a four-year state university, but I only stayed there for 2 years for my first master's. The standard requirement is a bit less strict than a UC, which means you don't have to have the best grades or SAT scores or best performance during your auditions to get in, but it is still a school funded by the government. Although the standard is less than a four-year public university, they did give out a graduate entrance exam in music theory and histories aside from your graduate additions. Luckily, I passed both music theory and music histories because I spent a whole summer memorizing the whole music history textbook, and I reviewed my music theory, of course. The music theory was not that bad. It was because I was already a composer, and being a composer, you do have a very strong background in music theory. So I just feel like the mo- the challenging test out of the two was the music history. I remember it was not that easy. It took me about 5 to 6 hours to finish both tests, and some of my classmates had to retake either music theory or music history before they were allowed to enroll a graduate music theory or music history course. Seattle Film Institute is a private university, but I only stayed there for 1 year. But I mean, if it's an undergraduate degree, the other students stay there for 4 years. The requirement was basically your three pieces you submitted, and grades were, I mean, the grades requirements was a 3.0 or above, which was not that bad. And this school was kind of nice because I remember some of my classmates, they got in with their second edition. So if the teachers there feel like you were not there yet, but you're almost there, they allow you to resubmit like another piece within 2 months durations to determine your admissions. But luckily, I didn't have to do that. I just got in with my first attempt. To give you more clarifications, any school that is public or state means you can possibly get financial aid depending on your income and your parents' income. So if you're low income, you probably will get almost a full ride. If you're middle income, then you probably get like half or 75% of your tuition covers. If your parents or you are very, very rich, you probably get nothing. For a private school, you most likely have to pay most of your tuitions or 100% of your tuitions because grants are limited to the students. And remember, they don't get funding from the government. So all the monies they use for to get the school functions was from tuitions mostly and donations from like big companies or alumni. So if you're going to a private school, you do have to expect to pay more than a public school or a 4 year university, which was the case I encountered when I was a student. Now, I'm going to compare the three different types of schools that I attend and share the pros and cons with you in my musical experiments. Hopefully, that will help you determine which type of school is for you to study music composition. I want to first start off sharing my experience studying at UC Irvine. I stayed there for 4 years, which was very typical for an undergraduate degree in America. To start with pros, even many of the classes were in the size of 100 to 450 students. However, for the music classes, they were a lot smaller and no more than 35 students. You got a lot of individual times with your professors and your TAs in a weekly basis. The weekly lesson was 1 hour long, and you're allowed to get dual lessons. Like if you're a composer, you get to also study another instruments. For me, I study both compositions and piano. That was definitely a plus because every composer should also be good at piano, in my subjective opinion. Like knowing piano is just it just help you compose much more efficient. But again, I pay way more than my experiment study at a state school, so I guess in this case, you can expect to get more resource. You also get tutoring service because UC Irvine has great resource to help you in all subjects, especially also TAs have very flexible office hour in a weekly basis. I didn't really have problems when I want to ask for help from my TA or the tutoring service or even from music. So again, you pay more, you get more in return. The cons I would say was it was too many GE courses. Like GE means general education courses like English, math, science, history, social science, art. Yeah. There were quarters I feel like I studied more other unrelated stuff than music, so which was not that great in my opinion. I personally think GE courses are great, but I don't think we need three classes per categories, like three science, three math, three history. Especially, we most likely won't be using those skills that we learn from GE in real life to make a living. Also, tuition was not cheap. If I were you, I still gonna take all those GE classes because I need it for my degree. But at the same time, I would take advantage of using the school resource like the tutoring service, school gym, shuttle service to go off campus, or any free events that has free food involved. Like if you're in the like let's say if you're summa cum laude or cum laude, they always host like a party, free food for you, and I always attend that events because I was one of the top students at the school. So I did take my advantage of the free food because I wasn't that rich at the time, and who doesn't want free food, right? Moving along, I want to share my experience studying at Cal State East Bay. The pros I would say is that tuition was a lot cheaper than what I paid for studying at UC Irvine. I was surprised that I still got about 75% of the tuition covered from financial aid. I was expecting none because usually financial aid gives out to undergraduate students primarily. Secondly, classes were small in a size of no more than 10 students. So in this case, if it's just 10 or less, there was no TAs. One professor should be good enough and have enough time to handle 10 students. So, which is pretty fair, I think. But if you go to like other places for graduate school, like a bigger school like a conservatory, you probably could expect TAs for graduate classes. There were more classes in conducting and orchestration, so which really helps me improve as a composer aside from my composition lessons. So I think that's definitely a plus. My weekly lesson was 1 hour long, However, I noticed that undergraduate lessons was only 30 minutes long. So with that being said, I feel like for undergraduate studies in music compositions, it is better to study at a four-year public university or a private university. I feel that state school generally is good if you want to study music education and become a band or choir teachers. Oh, and also let me add on to this. I mentioned that the undergraduate composition lesson was only 30 minutes. At the same time, you were not allowed to get dual lessons. So I just feel like the most important thing you want to get as a composer if you study composition at a state school, I personally don't think it would be efficient. So I won't recommend anyone study composition at like Cal State in the undergraduate level, but for the graduate level, I think it's very efficient and sufficient also. For the cons, you can't get dual lessons like piano and composition at the same time. Honestly, in my opinion, composers should get piano lessons at the same time because it really helps speeding up the process of composing. So I was kind of disappointed at it. But I did somehow manage to get 1/4 of piano accompaniment lessons, which was still better than nothing. Compared to my experience studying at UC Irvine, I do feel that I had less resource in learning music. But again, I pay for what I get. I can't really complain. I pay less and I get less. Lastly, I want to share my experience studying film and game scoring at Seattle Film Institute. I want to share with you the pros first. You get to learn something most schools don't teach, such as the harmonic structure of film and game music, writing music for video games and films, how to do beat mappings for film scoring, front and back orchestrations, MIDI mockup, and all the music software being used in the music industry. You even get to conduct your cues that you roll at recording sections. I also love the part where I could go to the lab and did free printing, and the lab was also 24-hour access. Again, I pay way more than what I pay for my previous 2 degrees. So in other words, you pay more, you gain more skills. The cons I would say is it was a 1-year program with 2-year material, so it really killed most of my personal time. Secondly, you can't really expect to master a specific music software, mixing techniques, or composing at a fast pace in just 1 year time frame. There was a bit of a self-studying you need after you graduated. Overall, all classes were useful except for songwriting. Many of my classmates and I felt that we spent way too much time watching YouTube videos during the songwriting class instead of learning how to write for drum set, bass, guitar, string accompaniments, and lyrics. But again, it was just one class, so I won't make a bigger deal with it. Anyhow, I hope my insight helps you determine which is the right school for you to study music compositions. Each type of school has their pros and cons. Overall, I like all of them. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. I look forward to see you guys on my next video. Bye.